America, you're beautiful, and welcome into the Business Pulse. I'm Chuck Barham. We are brought to you by the Freedom Chamber, online at freedomchamber.net. There's a healthcare solution in there. Have you taken advantage of it? 'Tis the season. If you're watching this and you are in control of your healthcare inside of your business, or you're an HR director, now's the time to reach out to the Freedom Chamber, freedomchamber.net. You can personally reach out to me at my email, chuck@freedomsquare.com. It's Rod Martin. It's Dean Owen. The Business Pulse is off and running. And yesterday, as we're recording this on a Wednesday, we had some primaries around the United States. Let's talk about what's going on in Alaska right there with another one, Angie Nixon. Rod, your thoughts?
Well, that race is actually here in Florida.
I'm sorry,
Angie
Florida,
Nixon,
not Alaska, Florida.
Angie Nixon is a DSA
Yes.
communist, full on, running for the United States Senate now against incumbent but appointed Ashley Moody, who's doing a great job for us in Washington. We're really proud of Ashley, and she did a great job as Attorney General here. Her successor, by the way, won his primary overwhelmingly, and he's doing a fantastic job as well. The fun thing about Angie Nixon, and oh, I'm so happy she won. And you say, what on earth are you being happy about a communist winning a U.S. Senate primary? Well, first of all, Ashley's going to just wipe up the floor with her. So there's that. But that isn't my joy. My joy is that she annihilated the utterly reprehensible Alexander Vindman, one of the two reprehensible Vindman twins who, working for, I'm for Ukraine beating Russia and everything, but these guys are Ukrainian and they were working for the Ukrainian government from every indication on the National Security Council. And it was Alex Vindman who was defeated yesterday, who was one of the key trumped up witnesses bringing about the first Trump impeachment. He is awful, and he got his head handed to him. It wasn't even close. It's a 12-point loss in a race where he outspent his opponent by more than 10-1. She didn't even crack $1 million spent in a Florida statewide race, and she toasted him. So it's a happy day here on many, many levels, but we are very happy to see Alex Vindman have to slink off to wherever he came from.
And I truly believe that. I don't know why I said Alaska, but I truly believe that sets the tone in Florida as you're ramping up for a gubernatorial race as well with Byron. And your thoughts on that, Dean, as we walk into, we're going to talk about politics, because politics set policy across the landscape of America.
Yeah, it's, we got to go through these periods where the far, far left, they're trying to take over the DNC. They're not trying to assimilate into it or to be a functioning part of that. They're trying to own it. So we're starting to see a lot of cracks between the DNC and the DSA. In long run, I think this is probably very good for America, because Americans aren't going to vote for DSA candidates, not in any significant number whatsoever. I still think we're going to get the SAVE Act passed. By hook or crook, we'll get it passed. And that's going to change our elections in a massive way. I think that's going to confirm what all of us have said here repeatedly, is that our elections are rigged, they're cheated. I don't think there's just that many deep blue cities and states. Some of them are purple, but a lot of them are probably red. I've got a good buddy over in Portland, Oregon. Real good friend. He owns a major tree arborist business. And he says he doesn't know, other than the hardcore downtown Portland, he doesn't know anyone else that, screams those kind of DSA policies or supports that. I go back and forth to San Francisco pretty regular with the aircraft, and I don't see the wackos that Mondani and some of these other people represent themselves at. I don't see it. I don't see people who would vote for them. So it's got to get bad enough. When it gets bad enough, America will shift. And I got a feeling we're getting pretty close.
Well,
I'd say the pendulum is
you mentioned the
switching.
stolen elections. You know, this affects everybody. And the Democrats used to understand that when they were telling us every 10 seconds that Russia had stolen an election, which turned out to just be ridiculous. There was a point in 2019 where Kamala Harris sponsored a bill in the United States Senate to require paper ballots. I mean, they actually used to understand this issue. Now they just embrace it because they're cheating like mad. Francesca Hong was up 22 points in Wisconsin. There is no way this woman can possibly lose the Democratic nomination for governor. She ends up losing by less than 0.5% in their primary. Are you kidding? I mean, again, up 22 points 2 days before the election, and she loses the race by less than 0.5 point because, of course, they just keep counting until they find enough ballots for their chosen candidate to win. Well, the Democrats figured that Hong would lose in the general, and if they run this other gentleman who is seen as a moderate, there's nothing moderate about him, but he's certainly not a rabid communist. They figure he has a better chance of winning in Wisconsin, and they're probably right. So they stole that election from her, just like they stole the election from Bernie Sanders in 2016. And everybody says, oh, well, that's going too far. No, it's not. They fired the DNC chairman when they found out how conclusive the proof was that she had stolen it. And it's worse than that. Do you know who actually determined that she'd stolen it? Donna Brazile, for heaven's sake. I mean, this isn't some right-wing conspiracy theory. So the Democrats steal elections whenever it is both convenient for them and they control the infrastructure enough to be able to get away with it. We see in Texas right now, a whole group of public officials are on trial for election fraud right now in Texas. You see this in a lot of places. You don't see it in places that the Democrats control top to bottom. And that's how they got away with it in 2020.
Well, you know, my favorite was watching, I believe it was MSNBC the night of the Wisconsin primary. And you could tell the two hosts really were down and out because they had lost 5 thumb drives. I don't know if you guys saw that clip or not.
Yeah.
They lost 5 thumb drives, and all of a sudden, there's the swing that got her unelected in that primary right there. That just goes to show you. Happened in Milwaukee. It happened in Pennsylvania. It happened in Georgia, Atlanta. I mean, that's just how it goes. But I want to talk about things that affect policy, and that is the housing market. Consumer Goods had a great report that came out. Yeah. Interest rates just dropped for the first time in 6 weeks. And in Texas, the market is booming in cities like Frisco and McKinney. I don't know if you guys saw the numbers or not, but it's blowing things out of the water. So the economy, as you guys have been talking about for the past 6, 7, 8, 9 months, is starting to really ratchet up in a positive way. And I think also with what Trump just did with Canada and potential of opening up the Keystone Pipeline, that really gets things moving. Dean, your thoughts on that?
Well, we've talked about Alberta in the past. They do have some petitions that are really interesting. But we did get some soft numbers out this morning on consumer spending and just within the last few days or week. But I really think that has to do almost exclusively with immigration. I went and checked the numbers today. The latest numbers I can find show about 1.6 million people have self-deported and another 1.4 have been deported. There's now 68,000 people in detention. That's the highest number it's ever been. So that if you're getting to 3 million through the 8th month of the year, figure 5 million by the end of the year, that changes our markets. For especially lower income folks who are having to compete for those jobs, their wages are going up. Good for them. And who's that mass deportation hurting? Probably business owners and organizations that are far left and were willing to cheat, and they're losing their cheap labor. But those of us that pay regular wages and pay what people's worth and what a job's worth, we're going to come out just fine. We'll be fine. But there is some upward pressure on wages. There is some a little more inventory on the housing market. Interest rates are still too high. Trueflation is still on about 2.28% right now versus the Fed's, much higher number. So it's working. It's going. I'm not sure how long Iran can hold out. We don't know. But when they do, we're going to see some massive deflation because all the premium that's going to put on trucking, transportation, or plastics, anything you make from oil is going to drop significantly. So I've got to think this president's smart enough to time that around the midterms and make sure to maximize that. We're seeing a lot of political rest right now. I think that's going to have some, and they're politicians or people who are in government who have done some very bad things. We talked about that before. We said their trials were coming. It seems like every week there's another name drop that's been indicted. So yeah, it's clicking. We've called that right. That's not arrogant, but if we don't say it, nobody's going to know.
That's right.
That's true. And I don't want to remiss the point about the Keystone Pipeline. Rod, what would that do to the economy if that thing gets popped back open and it's flowing?
It's tremendous for the U.S. economy, but also for Alberta. Alberta has been greenlit by Ottawa now to build a pipeline to the Pacific or expand an existing one. The problem is that British Columbia is going to keep them from doing it. So it's a completely hollow victory. Mark Carney promises them the moon and is going to deliver moon pies. So they need to be able to ship here. That works for us anyway. We don't really want their oil going to China. We want it coming here. And we're better positioned to refine it. We're better positioned to distribute it. And we're increasingly making the center of gravity for energy markets in the entire world shift from the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of America. That is extremely advanced at this point. And you heard the head of the American Oil and Gas Association on this show about a month ago say that he fully anticipates that we'll add another 5 million barrels a day of production in this country over the next 5 to 7 years. That's extraordinary because the current number is 13.8 million. Do you realize how much more 5 million is? But it's more than that because the total U.S. production in 2008, when oil hit 147.50, was 5 million barrels a day. So we are at a point where America is truly becoming energy dominant. And we're freeing up capacity to sell because we went 40 years with only 2 new nuclear power plants coming online in this country. We had a 20-year period in which there were 0. And just in the last 12 months, Donald Trump is personally responsible for 5 new nuclear facilities going critical, being ready to actually produce power. This is amazing. 5 in a year. And it's just accelerating as fast as possible. So if you can produce electricity from nuclear, you can sell more oil and gas, and that's just multiplying the amount of money available here. So yes, there is some upward wage pressure. That's absolutely true, but that's a good thing because we had a long period when inflation was outpacing wage growth. So we need to make up for that somewhat. And Dean is exactly right about immigration. If you get rid of the 20 million illegal aliens who are wrongfully trespassing in this country, it brings down housing, particularly in the rental market, that most affects the poorest Americans. They get a better rent bill. They have more disposable income. They have more upward mobility at exactly the same time that all these factories are coming online, where we're going to be able to employ a shocking number of people, even 12 months from now, compared to anything in the manufacturing sector before. It's just an extraordinary growth story that most of the mainstream media is completely missing, but you didn't miss it here.
No, you didn't. And there's another thing you didn't miss here. And I'm going to have Mike pull the archives in it. I went back and looked one of our shows back in April, May-ish, somewhere around there, where I believe it was you, Rod, that predicted that the Dow would be tickling around 54,000 by Labor Day. And here we are. So
Here we are.
people, Dean and Rod know their stuff. As you're watching this, this is great intel.
And by the way, we just had one of the best earnings seasons on record. it's easy to say, oh, well, the market's just about inflation or the market's just about this or that. No, you're seeing amazing earnings growth that's driving valuations. That's real. And honestly, the most undervalued stock in the market today, one of two or three, is probably SpaceX, because SpaceX is absolutely killing it. Just their data center business is already $100 billion a year. Elon claims that by 2030, that's going to be $1 trillion a year in net revenue just from that. I mean, that's before you get to space. That's before you build the Pentagon its own Starlink. That's before the whole world shifts to Starlink, especially on their cell phones, because that's about to happen. And nobody's going to want traditional wireless once they have Starlink on their phone. And all of these things, plus all the interplanetary stuff Elon wants to do, just absolutely driving growth there like crazy. That spreads out through the entire economy. We're just warming up. This is a super cycle. You see it in defense too, with the missile production in Anduril and Lockheed Martin and others. We just placed an order for cruise missiles. The normal annual order is 60. The Pentagon just placed an order for 1,000 in the next 12 months. This stuff employs people. This stuff actually moves the dial. This economy is about to just go super critical.
And one of the things I'd like to point out, because I get a lot of clients right now that are calling or coming in, they're concerned the market's so high. This market is not in a bubble. No. And I know what bubbles looks like. I remember the tech bubble crash. I remember 2008. I lived through those. This market's not going crazy. It's doing what markets that gain 10% a year do. And I can remember when the Dow was at 800, and we're now at 55,000. But when it was 800, it was increasing at $80 to $100 a year. Now it's 55,000. It's going to be increasing 5,500 points a year if it just maintains average. And we look back at when the numbers were smaller, the percentages were the same. But now, since the market's already so high, even very small percentages end up big dollars. So the market's healthy. There's always somebody in trouble, but my outlook is extremely positive, and there's some folks I listen to that on economic and forecasting, and they've never gotten wrong. So I'm not going to say I'm all that, but
two of those people right here with me weekly inside the Business Pulse that have a really good batting average. And Dean, we're running up against the break. Where can people find you online?
OwenCPA.com. That's OWENCPA.com. Jump online, connect with my team, totally free, and let us help you figure out how to disinherit the government and not your kids.
Thank you, Dean. And the Rod Martin Report, found where, Rod?
rodmartin.org. That's rodmartin.org, where we do daily geopolitical analysis. Fox Business calls absolutely phenomenal. We have hundreds of thousands of followers online. Tens of thousands read the daily long-form content we produce. There's a reason. So come to rodmartin.org.
Delivered fresh at least once or maybe twice a day to your inbox. We appreciate you guys very much. And make sure you're a part of the Freedom Chamber. If you're a member, pass this video on to somebody that's not a member and come join us inside the Freedom Chamber at freedomchamber.net. And as I always say, without 2A, there is no 1A. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Oh, go ahead, Dean, one more thing.
One thing. Just an email came out this morning. I forgot. Okay. Christian Employers Alliance just won a major lawsuit against the EEOC. If you're not a part of that, you need to get into that. It's, on a cost per person basis, it's cheap, it's inexpensive. They were funded largely with a grant, but they are doing God's work, and they just won a court case. But now, if you get the lawsuit before you're a member, you don't get the protection. You can't get the lawsuit. You can't get insurance on your house once it catches fire. So people need to be looking at that, be doing that, and jumping in and being part of that.
Thank you, Dean. A little extra there. Ladies and gentlemen of America, this has been the Business Pulse.
The American dream, full of grit, determination, and unthinkable achievements. Building and owning your own business is a monumental task. A place to find guidance, resources, and connections doesn't exist. Until now.
The Freedom Chamber.
A dynamic and innovative organization established to empower businesses across all sectors. The Freedom Chamber. Find us online at freedomchamber.net. Join us today.